The Deputy Speaker.
Member for Orapuch West.
Thank you very much, Deputy Madam Speaker. The issue I will be dealing with today is reference to my colleague, Member for Mayaro, about the strain on the economy to aid prisoners in prison. I agree with this statement 100%. Recently, according to the CNC3 News, police have destroyed marijuana trees and cured marijuana worth $2 million in Moruga. Imagine what $2 million every month can do when added to the treasury. This can surely assist the financial situation in this country. Anyways, the police destroyed the marijuana plants by burning them and causing atmospheric pollution. Instead, an alternative such as using the labor of these individuals and creating marijuana farms and assist in fighting climate change. Deputy Madam Speaker, please permit me to read an article by Chip Whitley on greenflower.com. As per the article, it said, if we are able to get large-scale cannabis farms into production, it could help curb emissions and fight climate change. This would happen through a number of ways, from providing more carbon-absorbing plants across vast farmlands to trading off emission-producing animal farms for greener, cleaner cannabis grows. It's like the saying goes, killing two birds with one stone, because you could also save spaces in the prison and create a better export for the country of Trinidad and Tobago. Members on the other side, did you know that marijuana can also be used as a food source? Yes, according to this article by Chip Whitley, Deputy Madam Speaker, permission again to read, that throughout history, it's been a dietary staple for many civilizations. Marijuana has often been cultivated as a source of protein, and even today is used to create protein powders or seeds can be purchased for consumption. On a large scale, marijuana can feed a lot of people if prohibitive laws are overturned. Hence the reason why, Deputy Madam Speaker, that we should stop depending and wasting money on the energy sector. As my colleague, Member for Caroni East said, shutting down Petrochin and resulting in major job losses. And try something new, such as the exportation of marijuana and using cannabis soil. It's that simple.
Would the member give way?
No, thank you. That's it. It's that simple, in addition to the fact that the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago are calling for the rightful positions to heal themselves with cannabis. According to the chairman of the All Mansions of Rastafari, Clyde Noel, in the National Cannabis Rally held in Woodford Square, Port of Spain on 14th October 2018. So, Deputy Madam Speaker, I am calling on the government of Trinidad and Tobago to make the right decision and stop wasting taxpayers' money on the energy sector and answer the call of the citizens of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. I thank you, Deputy Madam Speaker.
Minister of Energy and Energy Affairs.
I thank you immensely, Madam Speaker. Now, as the wiser persons of our nation would state, crapo smoke your pipe. Now, we, the government, will not allow any crapo to smoke decriminalized marijuana in our beloved pipe, Trinidad and Tobago, destroying our country. On January 16, 2016, the Guardian newspaper posted an article that had to do with my constituency of La Brea. If I may, I would like to read, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I quote, "A La Brea businessman was shot dead this morning. The police believe the man was one of the biggest drug lords in South Trinidad." Then later wrote, "Distraught, she, his daughter, told her brother, 'Pa dead.' Now, to say that marijuana doesn't kill, well, 2 children are without their father. It has and it will continue to kill. Decriminalized or not, the illegal sale of marijuana may continue. What we need to focus on and are diligently focusing on as a government is the emplacement and installment of more stringent laws and the decrease of our crime rate in this country, therefore lowering the amount of persons in our prisons." Now, on to my contribution. In an article posted by Riley McDermott on March the 2nd, 2017, at exactly 10:17 a.m., it stated, and if I may quote again, California energy regulators are warning marijuana farmers that the state's power grid does not have the capacity to support the increased demand it expects from electricity-hungry growing operations. This is the same California that some persons on the other side refer to as doing so well. Are they doing so well energy-wise? I think not. Even though marijuana may look green and smell green, not that I would know, it is important to note that its ecological footprint is anything but natural. In order for us to do, the government, to do what the opposition is asking us, which is the decriminalization of marijuana in order for medicinal uses to occur, we must grow it indoors to offer to our citizens the best quality of marijuana possible. And I'm sure the opposition would agree that is what we want to do. This, however, will indefinitely cause tremendous strain in our energy sector, which, as we heard earlier, is not doing as well as it should be, but I'm working on it. As in 2012, a study done by Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, done by Evan Mills, who is a scientist, a senior scientist in the building technology and urban system. It stated that the indoor growing and indoor cultivation of marijuana attributed to 1%, Madam Deputy Speaker, 1% of the entire United States electricity usage, totaling up to $6 billion a year. Now, to put this into perspective, indoor marijuana cultivation consumes enough electricity to power 2 million average-sized U.S. houses. Now, think about it. As a growing society, as a growing nation, which we, the government, are trying our best to grow, do we really want to put our country under this strain? Now, the question may be raised, well, can't we grow it outdoors? Yes, we can grow it outdoors, but this is if you want the creation of forest fragmentation, stream modification, soil erosion, and landslides, Madam Deputy Speaker. Now, we have heard today that marijuana does have benefits. It does have benefits, I'm not trumping that. But its deprivation of factors far surpass the amount of benefits it has, Madam Speaker. And that is why the government will not allow the decriminalization of marijuana. I thank you.
Member for Lupino.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, somehow this government has convinced themselves and the majority of our population that the decriminalization of marijuana means that all laws pertaining to marijuana will somehow be thrown out the window. Madam Speaker, we are simply proposing that the government amend the laws pertaining to small amounts of cannabis for medical and recreational use. Nothing else. Furthermore, persons who are found over the legal limit of possession, persons found within 500 meters of school areas with any amount of marijuana, persons who are found selling cannabis from places not legally regulated will be met with the full brunt of the law. So to the member for San Fernando West, I hope you could rest a bit more assured now, because I know this was an issue that seemed to trouble you deeply. Decriminalizing marijuana does not mean that acts outside the scope of the proposed amended laws will go unpunished, and it will be in the best interest of this government to stop perpetuating these ideologies so that we can move forward with these discussions rationally. Madam Deputy Speaker, these are the negative perceptions that this government has capitalized on and reinforced, leading our society to believe that the decriminalization of marijuana will only result in chaos and lawlessness, disruption of lives, which couldn't be further from the truth. Madam Speaker, what they have failed to acknowledge is persons who are arrested in connection with possession of small amounts of cannabis, how this will disrupt their lives. Job and workplace institutions will not accept these persons with this offense now attached to their names, which may see them commit further offenses in order to provide for themselves and for their families. Madam Speaker, we are more likely to breed lawlessness back into our country if we continue to place such stringent punishments on such minor offences. And we, the opposition, simply cannot and will not sit idly by as this government continues to let this country become more crime-ridden than it already is. Madam Speaker, the government has already tried to combat the drug problem and failed miserably, I might say. We are simply proposing that if we cannot beat them, we regulate them. As stated by Sir William Pate of the United Kingdom, a former Afghan ambassador, where he stated, and I quote, "If we cannot effectively deal with the supply, the alternative is to limit the supply of illicit drugs by making illicit supply available from a legally regulated market. This will not only take strain off of our state resources, but also put revenue back into our country that can and could have been used in natural disasters like the flooding experienced recently." Madam Speaker, amendments of these laws may even, and I would like my members to please note the emphasis on the may even aid in the alleviation of violent crimes in our country, a problem that has plagued this country for far too long. States where marijuana is already completely legal, like Jersey of the United Kingdom, persons can now turn to the justice system and the police instead of resorting to vigilantism. So, now, my government ministers might be asking, why am I referring to an international source? This can't be applicable to us. We are hot sun, them are sun and snow and them kind of things. We don't have that. But I would like them, but to the Minister of National Security, as soon as you update our forensic science lab and we are able to do our own research, you will give me a call. Madam Speaker, we the opposition are not ignorant to the issues that may arise out of the decriminalization of marijuana, but we will ensure that we will do everything within our power to ensure the safety and prosperity of our beloved country, because as members of Parliament...
Will the member give way?
No, I will not. I apologize. The further prosperity of TNT, because as members of Parliament, this is our first and utmost priority. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Minister of Communications.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the motion today. Should we really decriminalize marijuana? What impact does decriminalization actually have? All decriminalization does is take away the fear of consequence to whoever wishes to use this drug. This allows the black market to thrive. We must remember that after decriminalization, the selling of marijuana is still illegal. This means for recreational use, the only way to purchase is through a dealer. If we decriminalize marijuana, we must take into consideration that there is a high possibility that those who need it for medicinal purposes are actually receiving to resell it. This possibility is based on the street value or demand for marijuana, which will be greater since there will be no longer any prosecution for small amounts, therefore acting as an incentive for first-time users to try.
Madam Deputy Speaker, 4410.
You are reminded that this is a debate, so please minimize the reading.
Madam Speaker, in accordance to Standing Order 4410, I seek leave to read from my notes.
Again, this is a debate, so please minimize the reading.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As I was saying, Madam Speaker, I furthermore ask permission to read a small extract from the National Institute on Drug Abuse. The amount of THC in marijuana has been increasing steadily over the past few decades. For a person who is new to marijuana use, this may mean exposure to high THC levels, which explain the rise in emergency room visits involving marijuana use. The popularity of edibles also increases the chance of harmful reactions. Edibles take longer to digest and produce a high. Therefore, people may consume more to feel effects faster, leading to dangerous results. Madam Deputy Speaker, what happens when these edibles are consumed at school or work? Do we want this high-risk factor? Believe me when I say that this government is doing its absolute best to keep marijuana out of schools and out of the hands of our young children. But decriminalization does not help the issue. marijuana's accessibility would drastically increase. And Madam Speaker, did you know that the National Institute on Drug Abuse says that people who begin to smoke marijuana before the ages of 18 are 4 to 7 times likely to develop a marijuana disorder than adults? And marijuana disorders go with dependency. This makes all children a prime target for low-level drug dealers. You get them addicted, you have a customer for life. Madam Deputy Speaker, I refuse, furthermore the government refuses to stand by and simply allow marijuana's accessibility to drastically increase and put our children...
Madam Deputy Speaker, Standing Order 4410.
This is your second warning. This is a debate. Please minimize the reading.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Madam Deputy Speaker, the government refuses to stand by and allow the accessibility of marijuana to be in the hands of children, our future of this nation. Thank you.
Member for Couva South.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'm going to keep my contribution to this motion short and sweet. As much as you would argue and say drugs lead to violence, I am not saying it is untrue. But is drugs the primary cause of violence in society? Through you, Madam Deputy Speaker, I would like to put forward a question to my colleagues on the government side.
Standing Order 4410.
I agree with the member. As I said, this is a debate. Please minimize the reading.
In the year 2018, how many murders, road fatalities, or crimes were committed due to the use of marijuana? I ask another question, Madam Deputy Speaker. How many murders or road fatalities stemmed from the use of alcohol? As I expected, no answer. And yet, alcohol is legal. Imagine that. We go out of our way to imprison our citizens for possession of marijuana. Is this fair? No, Madam Deputy Speaker. Would you, the government, feel accomplished, like you have made history, knowing that your children and grandchildren are walking among murderers and child molesters because our prisons are filled with people held with
Will the member give way?
No, thank you. A small amount of marijuana. Please think about this motion, not for yourselves, but for our citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. We, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, will continue to put the people first. While we do hear the cry of a small percentage of the 1.3 million citizens of this nation, we will continue to do what is best for the overall development of our country. Madam Deputy Speaker, my colleagues continues to present facts as to why our stance as a government is this way on this legislation. Before continuing, Madam Deputy Speaker, I would like to ask the member for St. Augustine if she's suggesting that the members of this government should partake in legal substance to ease our stress. I would now love to add to the Honorable AG who's in her contribution today. For the first time in our nation, under the governance of our current opposition, we had a Ministry of Justice who did absolutely nothing to deal with the prison sentencing. In fact, a report was done and mentioned by a member for Couva North. A report was done and published, and they did nothing with that report. Our Attorney General and her team is working diligently towards this pressing issue. I would love to end my contribution today, Madam Deputy Speaker, with words from my fellow Tobagonian, Mr. Winston Duke. In the movie Black Panther, he stated this line, and I quote, "This government, in regards to the decriminalization of marijuana, we will not have it." Thank you.
Member for Caroni Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to join this debate, which calls on the government to amend all the requisite legislation to decriminalise the possession of small amounts of marijuana for specific purposes, namely recreational and medicinal purposes. Madam Speaker, from the onset, I must state that I believe that this government has taken an emotional approach to this motion instead of an economically sound, socially viable, and an environmentally friendly perspective, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, secondly, I would like to commend the Honourable Opposition Leader and the Member for Superior for proposing such a motion, such a noble motion, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this motion is forward-thinking. This motion is erudite, Madam Speaker. This is a progressive motion, Madam Speaker. A motion, Madam Speaker, a motion that will propel this country. And I'm not, when I speak about propel, I'm not speaking about those small engines like you have on the Caribbean Lines ATR aircraft, the Pratt & Whitney. I'm speaking about Rolls-Royce engines, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, General Electric engines, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, but before I go into my contribution, I would like to rebut some of the things that the government is purporting. You see, the member for Remand, the Honourable Minister of Education, has described this motion as baseless, hollow, and frivolous. But I want to tell the Honourable Member, through you, Madam Deputy Speaker, that you are speaking not only to us in this House, but you are speaking to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, the 6 citizens who are crying out for this motion to be passed today so that you all can amend the requisite legislation. Madam Speaker, the Honourable Member also spoke about where are we going to get the teachers or whoever the persons to distribute this drug, Madam Speaker. Your leader touted diversification as a form to enhance the economy. But, Madam Speaker, I would like to tell you that seeing that you are the Minister of Education and you all are so concerned about tourism, that what you have to do and what you can do is train more people as a form of diversification that can add to our economy. Now, Madam Speaker, the Honourable Member for Port of Spain North, the Minister of National Security, stated that it takes 3 months, he said, for a piece of evidence to go to the forensic lab in St. James. Clearly, he's out of touch with reality. It is almost funny and it is laughable that the Minister of National Security will come to this august chamber and say 3 months? Seriously? It takes 3+ years for evidence to be in the forensic. Now, Madam Speaker, I would like to get into the weight of my contribution, and we are the opposition, therefore we always consult with the people, and that is why we are proposing such a motion today, Madam Speaker. You see, Madam Speaker, in preparation for my motion, I spoke to the head of the Pharmaceutical Society of Trinidad and Tobago, Miss Junior Walcott. I spoke to Amor, which is the All Mansions of Rastafari. They held their rally back in October, as the member alluded to, as my member on this side alluded to. And also, Madam Speaker, I cited different newspaper articles, and I also cited the CARICOM report. You see, Madam Speaker, the head of the Pharmaceutical Society, Ms. Junior Walcott, I spoke to her on the phone personally last Friday. She said to me, yes, I did. She said to me that she supports this motion wholeheartedly, specifically for the medicinal aspect. Now, Madam Speaker, the government is saying no to this motion. They are also saying no to a CARICOM report, which they are part of, because we, Trinidad and Tobago, are a CARICOM country, which speaks to the ways, and I wish to quote Madam Speaker, the report speaks to the ways that decriminalization of marijuana can take place. It speaks to the stigma attached, history, the illegality, the religious perspective. It speaks about the harsh penalty that this government is saying that they are supporting today, Madam Speaker. It speaks about changing the attitude towards marijuana. I implore the members opposite today to take a look at the motion, because clearly they have not done their research for this motion today, Madam Speaker. You see, Madam Speaker, they're saying no to this motion today is them saying that, well, Amor, which is the All Mansions of Rastafari, organization, they said that what they would like to see is the freedom for citizens to utilize marijuana for medicinal, sacramental, commercial, and recreational purposes, Madam Speaker. They would also like the government to recognize the atrocities perpetuated against Rastafarians. But you saying no today is you saying yes, we will continue the harsh draconian laws which the CARICOM report has cited. Madam Speaker, you see, as I end, I would like to state that I have cited the CARICOM report, the head of the Pharmaceutical Society, the All Mansions of Rastafari. We also have articles from Ms. Muller of the Caribbean Collective for Justice, who states that the social injustice being perpetuated on mostly is being perpetuated on mostly the working class, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I call on the government today. You see, David Rudder has a song called Ganges and Niles. It speaks to the fact that we need to put away our differences. The song says...
Remember, your time has expired.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Minister of Rural Development and Local Government.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If ever there was a contest for the world's biggest lie, believe me, Madam Speaker, it is the big lie that marijuana is harmless that will win the contest. Popular belief of marijuana users and activists that marijuana has no negative side effects simply joins the rank of fake and misleading news. The real news, based on facts rather than fiction, is that marijuana has many health problems. Short-term effects of marijuana include paranoia, problems with memory and learning, loss of coordination, troubles with problem solving, increased heart rate, thus resulting in heart attacks and strokes. Madam Speaker, long-term effects of marijuana include lung and testicular cancer. Madam Speaker, it is no secret that marijuana has medicinal properties. Even Stevie Wonder could see that, Madam Speaker. But however, Madam Speaker, marijuana is not a medicine. According to the World Health Organization, they define medicine as a medicine is made when a laboratory extracts, and I quote, a medicine is made when a laboratory extracts the medical components and standardizes it. One could simply argue that Panadol may affect her differently than it affects me. And doesn't that mean that the effects are different? But Madam Speaker, I tell you, marijuana affects everyone differently, and as such, should not be legalized. Madam Speaker, hallucination and delusions are the result when high doses of marijuana are ingested. These are the facts we need to know before we jump on the decriminalize it bandwagon. This drug can affect more than your physical health. Studies in Australia, 2008, by Dr. Burkman, links years of marijuana to brain abnormalities. Even small amounts of marijuana is linked to sterilization in men. I repeat it, small amounts of marijuana is linked to sterilization in men. Dr. Anita Everett of the American Psychiatric Association warns that there's a growing body of evidence that shows that youth and use of cannabis develops into problems in adulthood. The major harmful effects of marijuana are closely associated with mental illnesses, Madam Speaker. Winston Churchill, a reporter for the New York Times, ate a marijuana cookie and spent 8 hours curled up in a hallucinatory state. Madam Speaker, I repeat, 8 hours curled up in a hallucinatory state. My question is for the opposition. How does a normal, healthy, positive, and academically brilliant young mind move from being a constructive member of society to a destructive member of society? One word, marijuana. Our nation cannot afford more violence or mentally ill citizens. The catastrophic features of this plan can be the very destruction of our citizens' health. This motion to decriminalize marijuana will result in nothing but chaos to our beautiful twin island, Trinidad and Tobago. Madam Speaker, as Minister of Rural and Local Government, I must address the cultivational part of marijuana. Madam Speaker, as if all these negative health effects are not bad enough, marijuana cultivation has inherent negative effects. Firstly, it will increase water usage, and secondly, increase in chemical pollution. Marijuana Cultivators 2016 explains that 400 plants per acre require 360,000 gallons of water. I repeat, 360,000 gallons of water. And this is in a dry season, catering for we are in a different climate, Madam Speaker. This will take a huge toll on our citizens who already have terrible water supply, Madam Speaker. Marijuana can contribute to the destruction of our environment in the rainy season where eutrophication is possible. Marijuana is classified as a narcotics drug and psychotropic substance under the Dangerous Drug Act, Chapter 1125, and is therefore not allowed within 500 meters of a school. When we decriminalize this element of the law, what message are we sending to the holistic development of our nation's children? We can only expect mayhem and madness. There will be increased videos on social media depicting students who are behaving in a violent and irrational manner. Madam Speaker, the opposition has drawn a parallel between Trinidad and Jamaica, stating that our neighbors decriminalized it, and as such, our legal system is capable of it.
Member for Point-a-Pay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Tanti Gertrude, let me get $2 for drink there. And 2 spliff and a joint to go with it. No, not that one. The one on top. 86% THC. In the nice, colorful package. Madam Speaker, these are the last words I want to hear from any 13 or 14-year-old boy when I walk into my community parlor. And for the sake of everyone in this nation, I hope that I speak on behalf of every member inside of this parliament. We as the opposition are aware that the proposition of this motion to decriminalize marijuana is one that gives rise to serious resistance by members opposite me and even members of the general public. But our proposal is not one made void of considerations for the concerns for general public health and safety, or the level of crime, or the strain on the resources necessary to cultivate marijuana, or the necessary rules and regulations to govern and manage marijuana use. Because yes, policies and regulations are necessary, because the last thing I want to go home and hear on the 7 o'clock news is that our Form 3 students are found with weed, or that young John Doe was struck a fatal blow by Tanti Gertrude after she ate him 2 carpet. So who will grow the marijuana? Where will it be cultivated? How much can one person possess? And what measures are being put in place to mitigate illicit activity, as well as punish those who fail to recognize the law? All of these must be considered, Madam Speaker. So, cultivation, Madam Speaker. We as the opposition refuse to spend millions of dollars on yet another product to import it when we could grow it right here in our very nation, Madam Speaker. And I know the member would have alluded to the strains on the resources, whether it be the electricity or whatever, Madam Speaker. But I have 2 words for you. Solar power. Madam Speaker, if this roof was clear, all of us burning inside of here. We are located right next to the equator, Madam Speaker, and we have an abundant source of solar energy to power these farms. So these marijuana farms will be owned and governed by the government, of course, until further down the road where we can privatize the industry, and it will be under the Ministry of Agriculture. So personnel can be trained to ensure that they qualify to grow, cultivate, harvest, or whatever the case may be in the process. And Madam Speaker, bear with me. I feel like my next statement might even make you jump out and hit me to cuff. But why not use those inside of correctional facilities and prisons, Madam Speaker? Because let's be real. Half of the people inside of those systems are probably quite more capable of growing marijuana than anybody in this room or anybody who will be trained. Of course, Madam Speaker, serious discretion would have to be used to determine which members of the prisons are able to grow marijuana, because the last thing we want is that when it's harvest time, half of the marijuana field is empty. And that also adds to what my colleague beside me said, that there are also persons who are engaging in illicit cultivation of marijuana. Why not use their skills to our benefit? Why not allow them to come into a newly founded industry to be able to put their skills to the task, Madam Speaker? In addition to which, we're proposing that individuals in their homes can grow marijuana, maybe up to 3 plants per unit. Because, Madam Speaker, if I am capable of growing my own marijuana, of harvesting it, ensuring that I'm not putting any harmful chemicals in it, then I had to be on some serious high-grade marijuana to go down the road and buy marijuana from somebody that I don't know who could probably shoot me and take my money without giving me the marijuana. Which leads me to the age limit, Madam Speaker. For medicinal purposes, we've decided, however, that there will be no age requirement for members of the public to use medical marijuana because they can range from age 5 to 200, Madam Speaker. We don't know. But for recreational use, however, there will be an age requirement of 21 years, and only persons who have a cannabis license will be able to go into the stores to buy it, which leads me to selling and retail. The medicinal and recreational marijuana will be only made available in government-owned and regulated dispensaries, which will simply be places that marijuana products are sold. And so, for medicinal use, however, persons will be required to have a prescription signed by a doctor so that the person selling marijuana are aware that they are in need of it, as well as persons of 21 years would also need the cannabis license. So I hope that addresses the concerns of the members who say that marijuana be able to be sold to everyone and our kids in our schools will have it, but I guarantee you no government organization is going to sell marijuana to a 15-year-old boy who walks straight through the door. There will also be requirements, Madam Speaker, for things like packaging and labeling. As we regulate the system, there will be requirements for the amount of THC or CBD present, the amount in the package. And I want to emphasize the fact that there will be no packaging, especially not to attract any young persons that are colorful or attractive, like young John Doe would have wanted before Tante Gertrude did him a slap. But there would be clear packaging so that we can see the marijuana that is inside. And that leads me to the penalties, Madam Speaker. The last thing we want is for persons to take advantage of the system. So penalties would be put in place to mitigate the illicit activity and hopefully curb the problems that we have. So for illicit sale, Madam Speaker, illicit cultivation, selling to youth especially will be punishable by up to 10 years incarceration. And I know if I'm working in a government institution, I don't want to spend 10 years in jail for giving a 14-year-old boy a spliff. So I will use my discretion and not sell to them, Madam Speaker. Freedom of use must be married with accountability and responsibility. Madam Speaker, I was coming up the road this morning to today's session, and being the Mako that I am, I'm sorry, Trini, well, same thing. I overheard my mom say that to my dad, and I say, I must say them that in my speech. Madam Speaker, the Minister of Sport was speaking about athletes using marijuana and not being able to participate, or another member talked about members of the public using marijuana in their businesses. But discretion must be had, Madam Speaker. We can't afford to deprive those who need marijuana or those who simply use it wisely to be able to use it because of those members of society. In addition to which, organizations can put up regulations to prevent persons from using marijuana and coming to work, the same way that persons are not allowed to come to work intoxicated by alcohol. So any kind of impairment would have to be left to the discretion of the organizations. So, Madam Speaker, I hope that my contribution has opened the eyes of the government to see that this system can work as long as discussion is had with experts and even ourselves, Madam Speaker, to put in a system that will work to the benefit of the overall society. So, Madam Speaker, for the privilege to participate in today's discussion, I thank you.
Member for Laventille. Sorry. Minister of the Agriculture and Land and Fisheries.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. To work as an innovative team, championing the conservation of biodiversity and sustainable development of food and non-food systems through sound public policy. Honorable members of the Parliament, this is the mission statement of this ministry. When we look at this motion, it must be acknowledged that a source of this herb has to be established in order to give citizens access to this herb. It will either be accomplished through the expansion of smaller farms or through the establishment of new plantations. Mr. Jake Brenner, Associate Professor of Environmental Studies at New York's Ithaca College, stated, "We treat it like a medicine, we treat it like a drug, but we don't treat it like what it actually is, which is a regular old agricultural crop with a fleet of environmental implications." Madam Deputy Speaker, please, let us explore these implications, because it weighs heavily on my heart to think that the opposition would pose such a motion without thinking about the environmental impacts. Firstly, the creation of large marijuana farms will require the clear-cutting of forested areas, which will result in soil erosion, deforestation, destruction of wildlife habitat, and forest fragmentation, which is the breaking up of forested areas into smaller forests. Studies done in California compared the environmental effects of marijuana cultivation to that of timber operations. Madam Speaker, please listen. It was found that marijuana production was responsible for 1.5 times the amount of deforestation and 2.5 times the amount of forest fragmentation than timber. Furthermore, efforts to regulate the industry in California were unsuccessful, as the 1 acre per parcel law inadvertently increased forest fragmentation, which had a greater disruptive effect on the wildlife and our ecosystems. This motion will lead to an increase in marijuana cultivation, so let's do the math. More marijuana equals more destruction, less biodiversity, done by persons from correctional facilities. This is insanity. I cannot support such a motion. Secondly, marijuana is a thirsty plant, and so each plant in cultivation requires approximately 22 to 23 liters of water per day, as opposed to the 13 to 14 liters of water needed by a regular wine-producing grape plant. This water needed for irrigation must be accessed from ponds and dams, therefore affecting aquatic life. In California, the high demand on the water resource began to affect salmon populations as the water was excessively diverted from creeks. This, according to an article done by California Department of Fish and Wildlife in 2015. If there's greater marijuana cultivation in this country, adding further strain to the water resource, the variety of animal life will be affected and therefore contributes to a loss of biodiversity. This ministry, and by extension the government, will not support such a motion, which will trigger a rippling effect of only destruction. Madam Deputy Speaker, as I close, if an agricultural crop is bringing little or no profit to a farmer, he will not further invest into the crop. Is it that the opposition thinks that somehow the damage to the environment is somehow beneficial, or have they not considered it at all? And so today, I stand by my government and I say that the decriminalization of marijuana will not occur in this country. I thank you.
Member for Chaguanas West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to speak here today. Now, the government, my question is simply this. Do you believe in progression, or are you one of regression? Madam Speaker, I think that change is needed here in our government and in the criminal justice system. I will not let this continue. The government comes here today and has the audacity to say that our arguments are baseless, hollow, and I quote, frivolous. Isn't it baseless, hollow, and frivolous to allow these disproportionate prison sentences of 5 to 10 years? I agree with the Sentencing Commission Act,
which states, according to Chapter 4, Section 32, that an offender is only punished to the extent justified by the nature and gravity of offense. For small amounts of marijuana, is it by the gravity and nature of offense for 5 to 10 years imprisonment? No, Madam Speaker, that I do not agree with and I cannot allow it. In terms of the backlog of cases, it marvels me the government again has the audacity to say that this is not apparent. However, according to the 2017 to 2018 annual report of the Judiciary of Trinidad and Tobago, they state that there has been a backlog of 269 cases within the time limit of 5 to 10 years. Attorney General, how do you answer to this? This will put a strain and burden the resources of those in the criminal justice system. What about those prosecuting the cases? What about the defense attorneys? What about those in the court system? It is already so time-consuming, and yet they are still pushed back because they have a burden on them. Cases are piling up, and the government has done nothing. Overcrowding also occurs, which the government does not agree to. However, an article in the Guardian newspaper, Wayne Chance, a reformed prisoner, he speaks on this article headed, "Prison System Waiting to Explode." He states that the prison is a set volcano waiting to erupt. It's on the brink of overcrowding, inhumane conditions, and delay of trials. The government says no. Okay. Former Justice Minister Herbert Volney also echoes the same sentiment and says, if a person has spent more time in the remand yard incarcerated, awaiting trial for petty matters such as marijuana possession, than he would have gotten as a sentence, that person should be released forthwith. I couldn't agree more. Why keep a man in jail for so many years? For 3 years or more than 5 years, which he would have served as a sentence, and the government saying this would be progression? No, this is regression. Therefore, I call upon the government to please amend the legislation in terms of what my members would have stated in terms of the Dangerous Drug Act. Also, it is also within the Dangerous Drug Act that, may I quote, that the minister may issue licenses for the import, export, diversion, sale of any dangerous drug. However, the government is saying that we do not have no legislation in place. It is apparent in the Dangerous Drug Act. Please look it up. It also speaks that medicinal practitioner will not be liable once they are under a license issued pursuant to Section 4, permitting him to have possession of that dangerous drug. It also speaks that a person who obtains a dangerous drug for medicinal purposes will not be liable. Therefore, medicinal purposes is of utmost importance to the citizens. Please consider them. It is not a matter of malice. It is a matter of doing what is good for our nation, Madam Speaker. And it is apparent in the criminal justice system that this is not efficient. It is not working. And it is time for progression, because with progression, there is change. Government, please amend the legislation. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Minister of Trade and Industry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Decriminalize it and you can tax it. Woo! We could use the money for flood relief. We could use the money for scholarships. Idea brillante. Brilliant idea. But, Madam Speaker, I'm a bit confused as to how we are really going to use the money gained from the decriminalization of marijuana to contribute towards scholarships and to contribute towards flood reliefs. Madam Speaker, as we have seen thus far today, many who are in support of the motion is pronouncing fervently the revenue that can be earned from taxation, both directly and indirectly, as well as the money that can be saved by the state when incarcerations are decreased. But, Madam Speaker, is the opposition really aware that legalization and decriminalization holds two different meanings? Therefore, Madam Speaker, the decriminalization of marijuana would not help the trade industry gain money since the substance is still illegal and therefore would not be able to be exported. However, Madam Speaker, I can only see decriminalization promoting the trade industry by fueling the underground drug market. Don't believe me, Madam Speaker, in front of me lies a lot of articles noted here today, regionally, locally, and internationally in support of my claim, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, our mission statement last 3 words at the Ministry of Trade and Industry states, for improved well-being. But, Madam Speaker, improved well-being cannot take place. I repeat, it cannot take place if we subdue to the motion put forth by the opposition. Now, Madam Speaker, I agree that according to Chapter 1, Section 4I of the Constitution, that it does indeed state that our citizens are entitled to the freedom of thought and expression, and yes, that includes the opposition. So therefore, Madam Speaker, I suggest that the opposition helps us present new and logical strategies about trading food and other items instead of planting marijuana, where we would both be able to export and supply ourselves. Now, there were a number of international statistics quoted during this entire debate thus far. Well, Madam Speaker, in that same light, is the opposition aware that the California Narcotics Officers Association states that common sense dictates that it is not good medical practice to allow a substance to be used if that product is taken by the patient himself or herself or offered in unknown strengths? Don't believe me? There is more. And it's also not governed by recommended daily doses. Now, Madam Speaker, I understand that the opposition isn't proposing that marijuana be placed in every street and corner. But why is this so? Is this because they too are aware of the detrimental consequences of marijuana? Prevention is better than cure, Madam Speaker. Therefore, we, the government, will not take any chances. Madam Speaker, are we trying to destroy Trinidad and Tobago? Are we making decisions based only looking at how this may improve us economically? No, Madam Speaker. Together we aspire, together we achieve. Let us not look at our selfish gains, but make wise decisions, Madam Speaker, to the point where a person would actually rejoice over being charged for an illegal act. You know why? Because the system is working. In closing, Madam Speaker, regardless of the many marijuana smokers in our country, the fact stands on its own. Truth does not change because it is or is not believed by the majority of the people. It won't benefit us economically, and as aforementioned by my colleagues, there are safe substitutes for the medical use of marijuana, and it is not harmful at all. Madam Speaker, and for this reason, I call against the decriminalization of marijuana. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Member for Mansalana.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My presentation will focus on some of the possible benefits of decriminalization of marijuana. According to Carl Kearns, in the article Options and Issues Regarding Marijuana Legalization, and I quote, many countries have removed prohibition and legalized marijuana use. Since 2012, some U.S. states have fully decriminalized the possession of small amounts of marijuana. More than 20 states now allow marijuana to be used for medicinal purposes. On January 1st, 2018, California oversaw the legalization of recreational marijuana. Canada followed with the Cannabis Act of June 2018, which paved the way.
Standing order 4410.
I agree with the member. They raised this point already.
Pardon?
Yeah, she was reading from the paper. Yeah. Can you not read from your notes, please?
Okay. Regionally, Jamaica decriminalized marijuana possessions in 2015. Madam Speaker, millions of dollars are being spent to incarcerate individuals for what is considered to be a victimless crime. Citizens are incarcerated for small possessions of marijuana. A Newsday article, according to a Newsday article, the Honorable Attorney General Freitas noted that there's a large cost associated with incarceration. He also noted that there are 3,667 persons incarcerated in this country at an estimated cost of $597 million. This includes electricity, manpower, water, food, transport, and other costs. He also goes on to say, if you divide the total cost by the inmate population, it costs... It costs approximately $15,000 to take care of one inmate per month. If the intangibles are added to this, taxpayers can easily pay $25,000 per inmate per month. Honorable members, we can no longer afford these costs in these challenging economic times. Instead of wasting this money on a non-violent crime, this money can go towards building new roads and infrastructure, or even a new children's hospital. Madam Speaker, although the financial cost is high, the social cost has to be considered as well. In Jamaica, it was reported before the decriminalization of marijuana in 2015, offenders risk prison for life, locked up for crimes as simple as holding a spliff. Young men of less affluential areas would come into contact with police over marijuana, smearing their records, compromising their employment prospects, educational opportunities, or the ability to visit certain countries. Marijuana, Madam Speaker, the same rings true for Trinidad and Tobago. Our opponents may argue that there is a link between crime and marijuana. However, there is little evidence that marijuana use itself increases criminal behavior. So one would not expect legalization to have important effects on crime. Madam Speaker, finally, decriminalization of marijuana...
Would the member give way?
No, the member may not. Finally, decriminalization of marijuana in Trinidad and Tobago can positively contribute to revenue, tax and fees, often thought of primarily as revenue-raising devices. Marijuana could generate revenue instead of having that money going towards the black market. Madam Speaker, I quote, Jeffrey Myron, a Harvard economist, argued that legalization in the U.S. would save almost $8 billion annually, curtailing enforcement activities, and would generate $6 billion in tax revenue. No. Additionally, according to the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis, California earned $2.5 billion in sales, Oregon $500 million, and Washington $975 million, according to Gleaner, December 10, 2017.
It's expired.
Thank you.
Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to respond to the issues raised by the Minister of Health, who stated in her research that we are only aware of 60 of the chemicals in marijuana and the other 440 are unknown. Might I add, this is true, but does the member know that it is the illegality of this substance which prevents researchers from doing in-depth research on the other 440 chemicals? Therefore, The legislation which presents this substance as illegal under the Dangerous Drug Act is the reason for the unknown 440 chemicals. Also, the Minister of National Security...
Give way?
No. Also, the Minister of National Security stated he agrees with the harsh and inappropriate treatment. This therefore means the minister disregards human behavior, and that is unsatisfactory. He further in his research, used a story from 1955. 1955? Really? Is this minister serious? Human behavior is dynamic and not static. Therefore, research presented today based on a story from way back when Adam was a little boy cannot be used to represent members of this country currently. Since the ministers of the government insist on imputing that marijuana affects the cognitive skills in the brain, clearly, when the members of this country voted them in, they were under the influence of marijuana because they do not know what the members of this country want or need. I think the government ministers are on the wrong side of the bench.
Standing Order 48-6.
I agree with the member. Member, you may continue.
I apologize. I now impose this question. Would you give your child a gun for self-defense? The more important question is...
Would the member give way?
No. Would you take a drug knowing it can kill you? Would a country such as Canada legalize a drug without doing proper research on all the benefits and disadvantages of this substance? We, the members of the opposition, are not asking to legalize marijuana, but merely decriminalize it. Make the requisite amendments to all legislation. We therefore stand by our motion and ask the government to put aside their emotions and use their intellect when considering this motion.
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I rise in accordance with Standing Order 46-2. I speak for myself and this government when I say we will not allow marijuana to be decriminalized within Trinidad and Tobago. Taken from the Guardian and Newsday articles, straight from 2010 up to 2018, every discovery of marijuana in my constituency, Diego Martin, has been accompanied by heavy ammunition. And the Minister of National Security has also enlightened us between the link connecting marijuana and criminal behavior. My heart breaks thinking that this is what my constituency must endure, and the more they will endure if marijuana is decriminalized.
Would the member give way?
No, the member may not give way. However, fear not, Madam Speaker, this Prime Minister of yours will stand strong, and she will not allow her people to be thrown to the wolves. Reasonable timeframes for cases to be called after an investigation has been completed will be set. Systems to reduce the incidence of case postponements will be developed, and compensation will be delivered to those victims whose matters have gone beyond the allocated time frame. To reduce time wastage and delay tactics, tighter guidelines will be put into effect on the judgment appeal process. There are your solutions for the remand issues. Recreational marijuana makes a person feel good, but as my government colleagues stated, Madam Speaker, not without the repercussions that it brings along with it. The opposition, it appears, in their haste to become such a medically developed country, they have forgotten the most basic and effective healer of them all: exercise. Yoga, Zumba, kickboxing, jogging, any physical activity for that matter. Allow me to quote, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, exercise helps prevent cancer. It helps prevent Alzheimer's, according to the Alzheimer's Society, and Parkinson's disease. It deals with insomnia, according to National Sleep Foundation. It assists in spinal cord injury treatment, according to Burke Rehabilitation Clinic, and arthritis, according to Mayo Clinic. Yes, marijuana can treat these diseases and medical issues, but so can exercise without the negative effects presented by marijuana, as previously stated numerous times. Moreover, where recreational use is concerned, a study done by University of Michigan students found a correlation between physical activity and happiness, reviewing 23 studies linking physical activity and happiness. Now, have you ever seen a sad monk? This is because meditation can make you happier. It has the ability to reduce your stress level and make you more focused. The member of Chaguanas East has stated that normal drugs have side effects, which is why we will use marijuana. Are they ignorant of the fact that marijuana also possesses negative medical effects? Yet they have the gall, the cheek, the nerve, the audacity to propose marijuana be medically decriminalized for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. The member for Tabaquite, where in our contribution have you seen that the government reprimands this motion because of our personal ideologies? What was that? No answer? Because, Madam Speaker, if the opposition were paying attention, if they had opened their eyes and simply seen what we delivered, the government has indeed presented logical reasons why marijuana should not be decriminalized. Madam Speaker, it looks like our statistics and evidence has gone through one ear and come out the next. The government has been convicted of possessing flawed perspectives and emotions in this debate. As far as I know, our ministers have not been replaced by cold, hard, unfeeling, artificial intelligence so that we cannot understand and empathize with our people. Turn that finger upon yourselves, opposition, because you are not able to consider the emotions of your own people. Lack of duties? I think the opposition should be the one concerned with their lack of duties. After all, didn't you become the opposition for a reason? Change? Yes, we are open to change. After all, we are the government. But first to the opposition, change your mindset and then come back when you can prioritize the safety of our people. Madam Speaker, it is that simple. There is no need to make a mountain out of a molehill when the answers are right here in front of us. I don't think that the opposition has quite thought this through. There are too many implications associated with marijuana for it to be decriminalized. And this leads me to believe that Henry Ford, when he said, and I quote, "Thinking is the hardest thing," which is probably the reason why so few of us engage in it. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I implore the opposition to think. Think of the people who will experience the hardships linked with the negative medical effects of marijuana. Think of our children, our youth, and their life, their future disappearing down the drain. Think of our country and think of its future. Thank you.
Honourable members, the question is, be it resolved that this House do call on the government to amend all the requisite legislations to decriminalise the possession of small amounts of cannabis or marijuana for medicinal or recreational use. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Any against? No.
Division, Madam Speaker.
Sorry, sir. There's other division.
Mr. Scipio?
No.
Ms. Duqua?
No.
Ms. Lamkin?
No.
Mr. Ramdale?
No.
Mr. Hussein?
No.
Mr. Villafana?
No.
Ms. Foster?
No.
Ms. Sipasad?
No.
Mr. Haynes?
No.
Mrs. Sipasad?
No.
Mr. Lewis?
No.
Ms. Monsingi?
Absolutely not, no.
Ms. Smith?
No.
Ms. Pasad?
No.
Ms. Komina?
No.
Ms. Augustine?
No.
Mr. Baumcombe?
No.
Mr. Garib?
No.
Ms. Franklin?
No.
Ms. Sassoon?
No.
Ms. Gabriel?
No.
Mr. Joseph?
No.
Ms. Galston?
No.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. London?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Brathwaite?
Definitely yes.
Ms. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Pascal?
Yes.
Ms. Hastic?
Yes.
Ms. Bruce?
Yes.
Mr. Hardat?
Yes.
Mr. Rampersad?
Yes.
Ms. Pope?
Yes.
Ms. Dolly?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Walcott?
Yes.
Ms. Bagwandine?
Yes.
Ms. Digans?
Yes.
Ms. Ali?
Yes.
Ms. Lavero?
Yes.
Mr. Holder?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Mr. Sutherland?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Madam Speaker, the result of the division is 23 members voted in favor of the motion and 22 voted against and 0 members abstained.
Honorable members, the result of the division is 23 members voted for, 22 members voted against. Okay, sorry. Honorable members, the result of the division is 22 members voted for and 23 members. What, I say it correctly first time? Another time I say it wrong. "23 members voted for and 22 members voted against and 0 members abstained. The motion has been negatived. I say it correct?
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that this House do now stand adjourned to a date to be fixed.
Honorable members, before I put the question, allow me to express appreciation on behalf of all the members of this Youth Parliament to the Trinidad and Tobago branch of Commonwealth Parliamentarian Association and the Parliament, in particular the Planning Committee of the Office of the Parliament, which organized this 16th sitting of the National Youth Parliament. Today's debate focused on the decriminalization of marijuana and the contributions made by you. Honorable members were comprehensive and sought to highlight the various issues surrounding this issue. We, the members of the 16th National Youth Parliament, trust that the concerns raised and the proposals made during the debate will provide those in authority with a youth perspective on this issue. We wish to express our deepest gratitude to all the officials who accepted our invitation and graced us with their presence, to our schools and institutions for selecting us, and our families and relatives who exercised patience and assisted us in preparing for the debate. We say thank you. During our intense weeks of tutoring, we were trained by Ms. Catherine Gordon, who coached us on dress, etiquette, and civility, Dr. Lovell Francis, who taught us developing debating skills, Senator Ramdeen, who provided us with the necessary tools to build on research methods, and the staff of the Office of the Parliament, who taught us auditory skills and the rules of parliamentary practice and procedure. Mention also must be made of the coordination team of the Parliament, who contributed in various measures to the successful execution of this event. They provided guidance on how we should utilize all of the skills we learned in our debate earlier today, and to them I say a special thank you. To the Ministry of National Security and its agencies, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service with a special mention, the Transport and Telecom Branch, Defense Force, and Trinidad and Tobago's Fire Service. The staff of the Marshal's Office of the Parliament for the provision of transportation, we say a heartfelt thank you. It was truly a distinguished privilege to have participated in this annual debate. May I now kindly ask you to remain seated after the adjournment for a brief award ceremony. Thank you.
Honorable members, allow me to make a correction regarding the division. It was 23 voted against and 22 voted in favor.
That's what I said the first time. Honorable members, the question is that this House do now adjourn to a date to be fixed. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? I think the ayes have it. This House now stands adjourned to a date to be fixed.
Yes. You all look so full of hope. President of the Senate, Senator the Honorable Christine Kangaloo. Speaker of the House, the Honorable Bridget Anisette George. Vice President of the Senate. I didn't know I required all of that. Okay. I guess I'll make use of it. Yeah. Vice President of the Senate, Senator Nigel de Freitas. Deputy Speaker of the House, Esmond Ford. Members of the Senate and the House, youth parliamentarians, members of the media, specially invited guests, parliamentary staff, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Very nice. My name is Atiba Wilshire, and I've been tasked with being the Master of Ceremonies for this part of the proceedings. It's a pleasure to give my personal congratulations to you all on a very well-researched and well-presented debate. So I think you all deserve a... Very good. Right. I won't take too much time. We'll move right into the formalities. And at this time, I'd like to welcome to the podium to begin the presentation of tokens and also to give some congratulatory remarks the Speaker of the House, the Honorable Bridget Anisette George.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wilshire, and a pleasant good afternoon to Honorable Madam Speaker, Madam Deputy Speaker, and to all you youth parliamentarians, to your parents, to your teachers, to the members of Parliament and the staff of Parliament. I really want to extend hearty congratulations to you all in having taken part in an important procedure that happens in your country. I would want to roll back a few weeks ago when we met, when it was your initiation, and I think I have a very, very good eye for remembering faces. But I guess your own growth over those couple of weeks is not just only manifested in your presentations, but it also manifests in you physically. Because few of you all now that I could remember having seen a few weeks ago. I think the lessons we want you all to take away from this is that, one, there are many facets to any issue. And very often, every voice can bring something to the issue to enlighten how we see the issue. And from your research and your presentations, we saw the facets of an issue. The other thing is that sometimes you have to agree to disagree. And even when you feel very passionate about your position, and maybe even some of the research you have done may support your position, you may not be convincing. But because you're convinced, all it means is that you take another bite at it. And sometimes, and it happens in human history, sometimes we are before our time, so to speak. And history vindicates us in that on a second opportunity, a discussion is won, and you see laws change, new policies come that vindicate a position you may have had 20 years ago. But I think the important thing is for one to understand that you can engage in a discussion and still not be the victor, but not therefore be dishonored. And a lot of what we see happening in society is that we feel now that if we don't win the discussion, whatever it is, we have to resolve it in sometimes a violent way. And participating in this shows that you can engage in a discussion with a passionate position, and you may not succeed in convincing the other side, but you accept and you resolve in a peaceful manner. And the fact that you all have engaged in such a process, for me, in itself is a win, because it shows that there is another way. The other thing for me is that, one, the issue that you've dealt with is a current issue, current internationally. And it has allowed you an opportunity to grow intellectually, in that you would have seen the different positions advanced in different countries, see how different countries who have legalized it or decriminalized it, or who have been dealing with the issue, how they have approached it. Maybe in some time soon, we too may have to deal with such an issue in our parliament. So it means that you all have been before us. And maybe it will keep you connected enough to what is happening in the parliament to see when and if that debate happens, and how positions are articulated, something that you could relate to. But I think the wider win for us in doing this is that it gives us an opportunity to enlighten the youth, and also bring you all in as sort of partners with us to enlighten the wider community about the parliamentary process. So I hope that you've learned that every member has an important role. The marshal, the clerks at the table, and particularly in this debate, I saw the importance of the clerk at the table. One, in terms of reminding the presiding officer of the time limit. You all may not have observed, but maybe where I was sitting, I had a good position of seeing that. Because even though the presiding officer is the person who determines the time, sometimes a little assistance in the reminder helps. And I've seen the clerk, one of the clerks at the table do that. You see also the importance of the clerk at the table in understanding what happened with the vote. All right? And while I guess in picking for positions, there may have been a lot of candidates who wanted to be either the Speaker or the Prime Minister or the Leader of the Opposition and so on. It also shows how important all the positions are for the functioning, the proper functioning of the system. I also was very comforted to see that you all were very familiar with the standing orders, which regulate how our procedure, how our proceedings go in the plenary. And in terms of, I see you all were very, very familiar with Standing Order 4410. And that is really there to show that it's a debate. Okay? It's really a debate. It's really a discussion and picking up on points that somebody else made, rather than reading a prepared text, which may, yes, be relevant to the issue, but not relevant to the discussion as it was flowing on the floor. So I see a lot of familiarity with that. I think this whole sitting gave you all a wide exposure to the roles of government and the role of the opposition, because you all didn't only deal with the private motion, you all dealt with questions on notice and urgent questions. And those two procedures allow the opposition to hold the government to account. And therefore, even though people say that, all right, the order paper, as you see, the business of the order paper is really set by the government. There are procedures within the order paper, employed properly, allows the opposition an opportunity to, on any particular sitting day, to get information on issues that they think are important, not just to the opposition, but as you all have said here, coming out to a debate in the interest of the wider society. I think there was a great effort to comply with parliamentary language and to avoid insulting language. And two comments coming from two of the members really interested me. I think it's Toko Sandy Grandi who said, even Stevie Wonder could see that. And that was a nice way of putting it. And there was another statement which doesn't readily come to mind, but I think it might have been used by the Prime Minister. Again, finding a way to avoid actually insulting a member. I think what we have to be careful, though, is to observe that we don't bring the presiding officer into the debate. And therefore, sometimes the way we say things, so when somebody says something to the presiding officer, Speaker, you listening? Something like that was said, okay? And we have to try and avoid bringing in the presiding officer. And I think we have to remember that the language of the parliament is what? English. So I heard, I think it was a foreign language, maybe it was Spanish. Okay, but I want to say that generally, I think you all paid regard to your standing orders. Certainly for the Prime Minister to wind up, it meant that you all would have considered Standing Order 46-2 and understood within a debate that the person, when the person replies, who would have been the mover of the motion, in this case, the member for Superior, nobody else speaks unless the motion is considered critical of the government, and I guess you all in your wisdom found it was that you all allowed the Prime Minister to wind up. The advantage you all have over us is that you, Madam Speaker, had a sort of prearranged list. In the real world, we don't. So it's really a question of who catches the speakers or the presiding officers, it happens in the Senate too, catches the eye first, is the person who will be allowed the right to speak. And I see that everybody jealously guarded their 5 minutes in that no one allowed any interruption. Give way? No one. But it's really your discretion. Some of us were stumped with respect to how to answer that. But, you know, we could just very nicely say, well, you had your time, this is mine. What I didn't understand, or maybe it's because of the time constraint you all had, of course, you know, in the real world, one is permitted an extension of time if one requests to wind up. But maybe you all had to avoid that because of your time constraint. So again, I want to commend you all. One, for steering the course. It seemed to you all, and you all expressed it when we first met, that it may have been daunting, but you have gone through the training. I have seen the training has impacted. We all in business attire, and smartly so. And I think generally we've all conducted ourselves in a parliamentary manner. So I want to say, one, we now have, and I mean all us as parliamentarians now have another 41 and about 44 or 45 new ambassadors. We hope that this introduction keeps your interest with respect to what happens nationally, what happens in your parliament. Democracy rests on engaged citizens. So we hope that this little glimmer has now piqued your interest sufficiently to keep you as engaged citizens, but also to bring your peers on board, those friends of yours who weren't so fortunate to be part of this process, but for you to assist them in being engaged citizens. So again, I want to congratulate you all and thank you all for participating in the process. So, I think we had a lot of parley today. And therefore, if I ask Mr. Wiltshire if we can do what is next on the program. I can? Okay, sure.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. At this time, we are going to begin the distribution of tokens and certificates. I would just like to remind all that the plaques are for your school and the other items are for you to keep. All right, the plaques are for your school, the other items for you. Okay, so we shall begin. The first token of appreciation is going to be given to our speaker for the day, who's behind Madam Speaker. Our speaker for the day was Ms. Tara Stephanie Harilal, the Speaker of the House. And then we shall continue, beginning with the government side. Dareem Scipio, Leader of the House, Minister of Planning and Development, Member of Parliament for Aruka Maloney. Dana Dukwa, the Prime Minister and a Member of Parliament for Diego Martin West. Shekinah Lamkin, the Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, Member of Parliament for San Fernando West. Jayden Ramdeo, the Minister of Finance and Member of Parliament for Diego Martin Northeast. No problem.
And I don't think it's any greater honor than for him to...
As such, we'd like to call on the Member of Parliament for Diego Martin West, Northeast, and the Minister of Finance, the Honorable Colin Bird. Chris Hossain, the Minister of National Security and a Member of Parliament for Port of Spain North. Isaiah Villafana, the Minister of Works and Transport and Member of Parliament for Laventil West. Christina Foster, the Minister of Health and a Member of Parliament for St. Joseph. Shanta Sipasad, the Minister of Education and Member of Parliament for Arima. Elliot Haynes, the Minister of Sport and Youth Affairs and Member of Parliament for Tobago West. At this time, we say thanks to Madam Speaker. And we now call on the President of the Senate, Senator the Honorable Christine Kangaloo, to continue the distribution of tokens of appreciation. And we continue with Amelia C. Prasad, the Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs and member for St. Anne's West. Nathan Lewis, the Minister of Social Development and Family Services and a member for Bonaire West. Natalia Montague, the Minister of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, and a member for Laventil East Movar. Davian Smith, the Deputy Speaker and a Member of Parliament for Tunapuna. Dana Prasad, the Minister of Trade and Industry and a member for Maruga. Teddy Ann Kwamina, the Minister of Housing and Urban Development and the Member of Parliament for Point Fortin. Caitlin Augustine, the Minister of Energy and Energy Industries and a member for Labrie. And we say thank you to Madam President. And we call on the Vice President of the Senate, Senator Nigel Freitas. We will continue with Johanse Bobcom, the Minister of Rural Development and Local Government and a member for Toko Sangre Grande. Isaiah Garib, Minister of Communications and a member for La Hoqueta. Carice Franklin, the Minister of Community Development, Culture and the Arts, and a member for St. Anne's East. Jahia Asson, the Minister of Labour and Small Enterprise Development, and member for Diego Martin Central. Daniela Gabriel, the Minister of Public Utilities and a member for Dabadi Omera. Ivan Joseph, the Minister of Public Administration and Member of Parliament for Port of Spain South. Antonia Gulston, the Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister and a member for Tobago East. And at this time, we say thank you to Mr. Vice President. And we call on the Minister of Community Development, Culture and the Arts, and a Member of Parliament for St. Anne's East, the Honorable Dr. Nyan Gatsby-Dolly. Now we begin the opposition side. And we begin with Ethan Wilson, the Opposition Chief Whip and Member of Parliament for Point Appear. Maya London, the Leader of the Opposition and Member of Parliament for Siparia. Clinton Edwards, Opposition Member for Naparima. Kareem Brathwaite, Opposition Member for Tabaquite. At this time, we say thank you to Dr. Gatsby-Dolly, and we call on the Member of Parliament for Princestown, Opposition Member Barry Padara. And we continue with Dariel Roberts, Opposition Member for Chaguanas East. Kemuel Pascal, Opposition Member for Caroni Central. Sepra Hastic, Opposition Member for Oropouche East. Alicia Bruce, Opposition Member for Manzanilla. Shannon Hardath, Opposition Member for Caroni East. At this time, we say thank you to MP Padara. And we call on Independent Senator Dr. Varma Dayal Singh. Shivan Rampasad, Opposition Member for Oropouche West. Liana Pope, Opposition Member for Couva South. Devon Dolly, Opposition Member for St. Augustine. Tamika Thomas, opposition member for Talparo. Cordonia Walcott, opposition member for Barataria. And we say thank you to Senator Dayal Singh. And we call on Government Senator Avinash Singh to continue. And we continue with Brianna Bagwandine, opposition member for Princestown. Jashir Degans, opposition member for Mayaro. Sadia Ali, opposition member for Couva North. This time we say thank you to Senator Singh. And we call on opposition Senator Khadija Amin. Janelle Lavero, opposition member for Chaguanas West. Darren Holder, opposition member for San Juan. Thea Alexander, opposition member for Lopino. We say thank you to Senator Amin, and we call on the Minister of Finance and Member of Parliament for Diego Martin North East, Mr. Colum Imbert, to continue. We continue with Marcus Sutherland, opposition member for Tableland. And Zion Freeman, opposition member for Komuto. Thank you very much, Mr. Imbert. Next, we call on our representative from the Tobago House of Assembly, Assemblyman Farley Augustine. And Assemblyman Augustine is going to have the privilege of giving the tokens to the Clerk of the House, the Assistant Clerk, and the Marshal of the Parliament. So we continue with Sarisa Hardath, the Clerk of the House. Amakia Fraser, Assistant Clerk of the House. And Jamal Sebro, the Marshal of the Houses. Thank you very much, Assemblyman Augustine. And with that I can come across here again. I've also been asked to make special mention of the participating institutions, the different schools that took part and helped us to make this a reality. So I'll quickly call out the names of the schools. The Arima Central Secondary, Bishop Anstey High School, Port of Spain, the Cipriani College of Labor and Cooperative Studies, the College of Science, Technology and Applied Arts of Trinidad and Tobago, COSTAT, the Couva East Secondary School, the El Dorado East Secondary School, Holy Faith Convent in Couva, Holy Name Convent in Port of Spain, the Mayaro Past Pupils Association, the Mobac Foundation, Northgate College, Pleasantville Secondary School, St. Anthony's College, St. Benedict's College, St. Dominic's Children's Home, the St. Stephen's College, Southeast Port of Spain, Speyside Secondary School, Swaha Hindu College, Trinidad and Tobago Blind Welfare Association, the Trinidad and Tobago Youth Ambassadors, Trinity College Mocha, the University of the West Indies St. Augustine Campus, the University of Trinidad and Tobago, the Upper Level Educational Institute, and the Youth Training Center. A round of applause. Good. As you all know, you all would have engaged in a very sometimes animated but very informed debate. And you all would have seen in the media gallery, there were some special persons who were seated paying very close attention to you all, those who are our judges, all right? At this time, we are going to have our chief judge, who was, the chief person overseeing you all and monitoring you all and, looking at all of your actions. Our chief judge is the Honorable Shamfa Kojo. She's the Minister of Sport and Youth Affairs. She's going to come and give some remarks on the debate. So let's welcome our chief judge, the Honorable Shamfa Kojo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Hearty good afternoon to each and every one. I must say that it is indeed a privilege and a pleasure to be here with you this afternoon and to witness this great debate in the 16th National Youth Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. You all have performed outstandingly well, and I want you to give yourselves a round of applause. I must say that this was indeed a difficult task for us to assess your performance, to judge you fairly, and because the scores were very, very, very close. I would like to first and foremost say thank you to the members that served on the panel of judges. We have Senator Anita Haynes, who's an opposition senator. Then we have Independent Senator Torel Srikisoon. We were assisted by Mr. Julian Ogilvie, a procedural clerk in the Parliament, and Mr. Karim Marcel, a representative of the Trinidad and Tobago Youth Convention. I would like to explain, give you some detail on the different categories that was used to assess your performance. The first category is relevance and knowledge. That carried 30 points, and we looked at how you would have demonstrated your concepts, your ideas and perspectives that were directly related to the motion. We looked at your ability to present evidence-based arguments and use comparative data and references and refer to sources to support your material. Then the second category was delivery. That also carried 30 points. We looked at how you would have presented your ideas, concepts, and perspectives, how you would have reasoned, and whether or not you were able to deliver in a coherent and credible manner. Your ability to demonstrate a strong and sound command of the English language. We looked at whether you would have displayed confidence, poise, and charisma. And we looked at your ability to present within the specified time frame, so that carried 30 points. The third category was organization and clarity of arguments. The presentation had to be distinct or memorable as it relates to its introduction. You would have had to have strong arguments. We looked at your summary or your conclusion. We looked at your ability to present a definitive position either for or against the motion, your ability to introduce new perspectives to the debate, and your ability to treat rebuttals in the presentation well. That carried 20 points. The next category is the fourth category, and that's diction. We looked for good pronunciation and articulation of words, and we look for your ability to display clarity of tone and a skillful use of intonation. That carried 10 points. And the final category, the fifth category, is presentation and image. We looked at your ability to effectively utilize body language, whether you were bending over the table, hugging yourself, holding on to the paper, whether you kept looking down. And we looked at whether you were professionally groomed and professionally attired. And that carried 10 points. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, there are some things that we recognize as parliamentarians, and we were able to learn from you also. I think the most profound one is the art of being polite and taking criticism. Today we learned a new way of not giving way. You were so very polite in saying that you're not going to give way. We would usually say no, and sometimes as parliamentarians we just ignore. But you said no, thank you, sorry. And we found that really, really, really sweet and really commendable. Your ability to rebut properly, professionally, and politely. And I want to mention Dariel Roberts for the way she would have handled the rebuttal very early in the debate, the way she would have carried herself as it relates to that. We also looked at your ability to, many of you knew the standing orders and you utilized the standing orders well. We were impressed by the way you were able to deliver good content. You were well researched and you were able to deliver good content within 5 minutes. I must commend the members of the government who would have spoken within their portfolios and utilize the Minister of Agriculture, Minister of Health, to speak to issues surrounding their portfolios. And those of you in the opposition who didn't have ministerial portfolios, you took the opportunity to recognize and to make good representation by speaking about your interactions with your constituents. And that is very, very important, because if it weren't for your constituents, you would not be here. They are the most important part of this. So all in all, I want to say today was a good day. As Minister of Sport and Youth Affairs, I must say Trinidad and Tobago is in good hands. I want to commend the Parliament for doing this for the 16th time, and the schools, the parents, the teachers, everybody for showing up and showing out and making sure that these young people participate well and utilize your 6 weeks properly. Now, I want to mention a couple speakers that stood out, and I must say it was really, really difficult. And every time we tried, we listed the people to be mentioned, especially. I'm reminded by the procedural clerk, Mr. Julian Ogilvie, you must stop. You can't mention everybody. So we'll just mention 5 people, and that would be the Minister of Education, Ms. Shanta C. Prasad. The Minister of Agriculture for a very patterned delivery, Ms. Natalie Mansay. The member for Chaguanas East, Ms. Darielle Roberts. The member for Caroni Central, Mr. Kemuel Pascal. The member for Lopino, Mr. Thair Alexander. Of course, your leader of government business, Mr. Gant. So many of you will have presented so very well. We've learned so much from you. And I just want to encourage you to pursue your goals, reach for the stars, and I would leave the rest of the results up to the other members of Parliament who are here today. So congratulations to each and every one of you, and best wishes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Cudjoe. Now, you all know that the purpose of the main purpose of the judges being there was to assess who is the best debater among us, right? You all know that, right? Yeah? Good. Very good. So, I am now going to introduce the person who is going to give the announcement of who is the best debater, but they were assessing the top 3. The person is going to announce the top 3. We have prizes for the top 3. So when your name is announced, I would like for you to come to the front to collect your token. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce the Vice President of the Senate, Senator Nigel de Freitas.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Now, this is the part of the proceedings, as the chairman indicated, that everyone, from the time that they start this process, they want to know who was the top 3 debaters. But before I do so, I just want to reiterate what the Minister of Sports and Youth Affairs and every speaker that has come before has indicated, and that this debate today and this procedure was indeed and truly outstanding. So just give yourselves a desk thump, specifically. For engaging in what is a difficult process for most people, and the fact that you were able to do it at this high level says a lot about our young people in Trinidad and Tobago. And one other thing that I would add that has not been said over the years, especially since I've been doing this, is that I have to apologize to the parents and the peers and the teachers, because it is they who now have to cope with the license to debate that each and every one of you have gained here today. So when you go home, don't stop, debate them. You want a party, debate them, don't argue. You want an increase in allowance, debate them, don't argue. You're not going to win, but you will definitely get them to think. So congratulations to you again, as I now move on to announcing the top 3 debaters. So as the Minister of Sports and Youth Affairs indicated, you had specific criteria upon which you were judged, and the top 3 debaters would have epitomized everything in that criteria and brought it all together to have that level of outstanding debate today. And so I would invite to the podium to help me announce this, and also to give a token, the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, MP Esmond Ford. So I'll just invite him to the podium. And in 3rd place in this 16th National Youth Parliament debate today, we have the member for Arima from the University of West Indies, Shanta C. Prasad. And in 2nd place, we have the member for Caroni Central from Kostad, Mr. Kimul Pascal. And we get to the one that everybody wants to hear. Can I get a drum roll? And the best debater for the 16th National Youth Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, the member for Lopino, Mr. Thayer Alexander. And I now hand you back over to the chairman of today's proceedings.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President and Mr. Deputy. We are almost to the finish line, and we are now going to have the vote of thanks, which is going to be given by the President of the Senate, Senator the Honorable Christine Kangaloo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the easiest responsibility today, and that is to say thanks. And I think you've already heard your speaker, your youth speaker, giving thanks and listing those who have made the hosting of this 16th National Youth Parliament such a success. But I need, because it is such a success and because we are so proud of what you have achieved today, I think that I shall repeat some of what your youth speaker indicated today. So let me just say that we had some unique elements to this 16th National Youth Parliament. We actually had 52 participants, which is a large number. But for this youth parliament, we had the Blind Welfare Association being represented for the first time, and I think you all should be happy. Because that makes the parliament even more inclusive. So we thank the members from the Blind Welfare Association for being part of this event today. We also have to thank the Ministry of National Security and the Tobago House of Assembly, who provided transportation for our youth parliamentarians. We need to thank our judges, the Honorable Shamfa Kajo, Minister of Sport and Youth Affairs, and I would just ask her to stand and come out so that you all can see her once more. Senator Anita Haynes, Senator Corel Shrikisoon, Mr. Kareem Marcel, who is representing the Trinidad and Tobago Youth Convention, and Mr. Julian Ogilvie, our procedural clerk. These were the judges. And if I'm saying anybody nodded off while you all were debating, you know that these judges did not. So we want to thank them for their service today. We know that you worked with different persons on different aspects of your presentation today. So we want to thank Ms. Catherine Gordon, Dr. Lavelle Francis, who assisted with preparing you for engaging in a debate, and Senator Gerald Ramdeen, who helped you in understanding what kind of research had to go into the debate. So we thank those who helped you to be as amazing as you were today. So I ask you to give them a round of applause. our very hardworking and dedicated members of staff of the Parliament, who guided you through the process of a sitting, who guided you through the understanding of the standing orders. We want to, on your behalf, say thank you to them as well. And we have today various members of Parliament who came and sat and listened to your presentations. Some of them have left, some of them have remained throughout the day. So I am going to ask, as I see them, I'm going to ask them to just come and stand here, because it is important for you to see the persons whose roles you were fulfilling today. So let me start by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Honourable Bridget Anisette George. No, come forward, Madam Speaker. This is the person I get to. Yes. We have the Deputy Speaker. We have the Vice President of the Senate. You know, you can give them a round of applause. We have the Minister of Community Development, Culture and the Arts. We have the Parliamentary Secretary of the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries. We have the Member of Parliament for Princestown. Senator Anita Haynes. Oh, I'm not seeing you. Senator Dial Singh, who is an independent senator. The Minister of Sport and Youth Affairs. We have the Assemblyman from the Tobago House of Assembly. We want to welcome him to stand with us. There were other members of Parliament present here today. Those included the Minister of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries. We had Senator Amin, Senator Obika, Senator Richards, Senator Hussain. They all came at some point in the debate and listened to you. So we want to thank them all for coming and listening to what the youth of Trinidad and Tobago, what they have to see, what the future parliamentarians are saying to us. And finally, no one who achieves success does so without the help of others. And we have your parents and we have your teachers who have been standing side by side with you as you prepared for this debate today. And we want to thank them for that dedicated support. I've saved the best for last. And that is you, our youth parliamentarians of our 16th National Youth Parliament. We want to say to you, thank you for your presentations today. Thank you for your passion. And if there's one thing that I would ask of you, is that you continue on this conscious path. Continue with that consciousness about the national affairs of Trinidad and Tobago. Don't let this be a one-off event. It may not happen here. You may not be debating here in the Parliament as a youth parliamentarian again, but we would like you, as the Vice President said, we want you to take that consciousness with you as you go back to your schools and your homes and engage other persons in matters of national interest. So that is my request of you, as I thank you for what you have done today. So this marks the end of the formal part of the National Youth Parliament. But as you know, we think it's time for you to relax a little bit. So we will be hosting a reception on the second floor. On the second floor. So we look forward, all of us, collectively, to meeting you individually, meeting your parents and your teachers, and sharing in your accomplishment today. Thank you very much.